The late afternoon sun cast a warm glow over the quiet neighborhood. The small corner store was nearly empty, except for an older man in a tailored suit browsing the wine section. His presence stood out, every detail about him, from the polished shoes to the expensive watch, screamed wealth. Near the counter, a little girl no older than 8 hesitated by the refrigerated section, staring at a carton of milk as if it were treasure. Her hands clutched a small cloth purse that looked worn and nearly empty. The shopkeeper, busy stacking cans, noticed her and sighed. "Do you have the money, kid?" he asked impatiently. The girl bit her lip, stepped forward, and spoke softly. I don't have enough right now, but I promise I'll pay you back someday." The shopkeeper frowned, already shaking his head, but before he could speak, the millionaire glanced over, curious. He had overheard her words, and for some reason, they made him stop in his tracks. "What did you just say?" he asked, walking toward the counter. The girl looked up at him, unsure whether to be afraid or hopeful. "I'll pay you back someday. I just need the milk for my little brother." The room went silent, and the millionaire's gaze locked on the tiny, determined face staring back at him. Something inside him shifted. The millionaire studied her for a moment, his sharp eyes softening just slightly. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she replied, clutching the milk like it might vanish from her hands. The shopkeeper crossed his arms. "Sir, she doesn't have the money." "I can't just," the millionaire raised a hand, silencing him. "I didn't ask if she had money. I asked her name." Lily swallowed hard. "It's just, my brother's been sick, and Mom's working late. We ran out of milk, and I thought maybe if I promised, someone would believe me." The shopkeeper muttered under his breath, clearly skeptical. Kids say a lot of things, but the millionaire was no longer listening to him. Instead, he took the milk from Lily's trembling hands and set it on the counter. Then, without a word, he pulled out a crisp $100 bill and placed it in front of the shopkeeper. "Keep the change," he said. The shopkeeper blinked, stunned. "Sir, this is," I said. "Keep it," the millionaire repeated, his voice calm but firm. Lily's eyes widened. "You mean I can take it?" He knelt down to her level, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Not only can you take it, but I want you to tell me more about you and your brother. Something tells me this isn't just about milk." And with that, the shop felt heavier with curiosity, as if something much bigger had just begun. Lily hesitated, her small hands gripping the milk carton like it was the most valuable thing in the world. She looked at the millionaire, unsure if she could trust him. "It's not far," she finally whispered. "But, why do you want to know?" He stood up, adjusting his suit jacket. "Because sometimes promises mean more than money. And you seem like someone who keeps hers." The shopkeeper watched them with a mix of confusion and curiosity as the millionaire walked out alongside the little girl. The late afternoon air was cool, carrying the scent of fresh rain. Lily led him through a series of narrow streets, her worn sneakers making soft scuffs against the pavement. They passed faded houses, cracked sidewalks, and a playground with rusted swings that creaked in the breeze. Finally, they reached a small, weathered apartment building. The paint was peeling, and the stairs groaned with every step as they climbed. Lily unlocked the door with a small key and stepped inside. The apartment was dim, but the warmth of a small lamp revealed a boy about 5 years old, curled up on a couch under a blanket. His cheeks were pale, his breathing soft but uneven. Beside him was an empty cereal bowl, no milk inside. Lily hurried over and poured the milk into a cup, handing it to her brother. "Here, Tommy. Drink slowly." The millionaire stood in the doorway, taking in every detail, the bare cupboards, the second-hand furniture, the quiet determination in Lily's every move. This wasn't just a girl asking for milk. This was a girl holding her world together. Something deep in his chest tightened. The millionaire stepped fully inside, closing the door behind him. His expensive shoes looked almost out of place on the worn linoleum floor. Lily glanced at him nervously. "You can sit down, if you want," she offered, her voice polite but cautious. He took a seat on the edge of a chair that looked like it had been rescued from the curb. For a moment, he simply watched as Tommy sipped his milk, Lily kneeling beside him like a protector. "Where's your mom?" he finally asked. "Working," Lily replied. "She cleans offices downtown. Sometimes she doesn't get home until midnight." The millionaire nodded slowly. "And your father?" Lily's eyes dropped to the floor. "It's just us now." Silence hung in the air for a beat. The man reached into his pocket, pulled out a sleek leather wallet, and set it on the table. But instead of taking out money right away, he pulled out a small notepad and pen. "Write down everything you and your brother need," he said. Lily's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean groceries, clothes, medicine, whatever it is. I'll make sure you get it. But in return," his eyes softened, "you keep your promise. Someday, when you're grown, you pay it forward to someone else who needs it." Lily blinked at him, her young mind trying to process such an offer. "Why would you do that for us?" He leaned back, his voice quieter now. "Because once, a long time ago, I was the kid asking for milk." Lily froze, her small fingers tightening around the pen he'd handed her. She looked at the millionaire with wide, uncertain eyes. You were like me?" she asked softly. He nodded, a faint shadow passing over his expression. "I grew up in a tiny apartment not much bigger than this. My mom worked 3 jobs. Some nights we went to bed hungry. One winter, when I was about your age, I walked into a store and asked for bread, and promised to pay later." Lily leaned forward, hanging on his every word. "The man behind the counter could have turned me away," he continued. "But instead, he gave me the bread, a jar of jam, and told me that when I grew up, I had to do the same for someone else. That one act, it changed the way I saw the world." He gave a small smile. "It didn't make me rich overnight, but it gave me hope. And hope's a powerful thing." Lily glanced over at Tommy, who had finished his milk and was now resting quietly. She looked back at the millionaire, her voice trembling. "I promise. I'll help someone, when I can." He reached into his wallet, pulled out several crisp bills, and set them on the table. "For now, that's your start. I'll be back tomorrow with more." Her eyes widened. "Tomorrow?" "Yes," he said, standing up. "Because helping someone isn't just about a moment. It's about staying until they can stand on their own." And for the first time that day, Lily smiled, not out of politeness, but because she believed him. The next afternoon, just as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, Lily heard a knock at the door. She opened it to see the millionaire, but this time, he wasn't alone. Behind him stood 2 delivery workers carrying large boxes and bags. "What's all this?" Lily gasped. "Your list," the millionaire said with a small smile. "And a few things I thought you might have forgotten to write down." The boxes were filled with groceries, fresh fruit, vegetables, pasta, canned goods, cartons of milk. One bag held warm blankets, another had clothes in both Lily's and Tommy's sizes. But that wasn't all. The millionaire stepped aside, revealing a brand new space heater. "Winters get cold. This should help." Lily covered her mouth with her hands. "You didn't have to, I did," he interrupted gently. "Because sometimes people need more than the bare minimum to feel safe." Tommy peeked from behind the couch, his eyes lighting up when he spotted a small toy truck in one of the bags. He darted forward and hugged it tight. As the deliveries were unpacked, neighbors from the building peeked out into the hallway, curious. Word spread quickly, the wealthy man who visited Lily's family had brought supplies. An older woman down the hall whispered, "I haven't seen anyone do something like this in years." The millionaire glanced around and noticed the tired faces of the other residents. He made a mental note, this wasn't going to stop with Lily's family. Helping one child had just become something bigger. By the next week, the millionaire's visits had become routine. At first, it was just Lily and Tommy who received his help. But soon, he started knocking on other doors in the building. A single mother down the hall opened her door to find him holding a bag of diapers and formula. A retired man on the third floor received new blankets and groceries. Even the building's grumpy superintendent found himself staring at a box of tools the millionaire had quietly left by his office door. People began talking in hushed tones. Who is he? Why is he helping everyone? Do you think he's running for office? But the millionaire wasn't interested in politics, he was interested in something much deeper. One evening, he gathered the residents in the building's small courtyard. A string of old bulbs lit the space, and the cool night air carried the faint scent of fresh bread from one of the boxes he had brought. I didn't come here to hand out charity, he began, his voice steady. I came because a little girl asked for milk, and reminded me of who I used to be. I know how it feels to think no one's coming to help. So I'm here to tell you, help is here. The courtyard was silent. But, he continued, this doesn't end with me. I want each of you to think of someone you can help, even in a small way. A meal. A ride to work. A kind word. That's how real change starts. Lily, standing beside Tommy, looked up at him like he was some kind of hero. And in that moment, the building didn't just feel like a place to live, it felt like a community again. It was a windy Thursday afternoon when the test came. Lily was walking home from school with her backpack bouncing against her shoulders when she saw Mrs. Harris, the elderly woman from the second floor, struggling at the corner. Her grocery bag had ripped, spilling apples, bread, and canned goods onto the sidewalk. A group of teenagers passed by, laughing as they stepped around the mess without helping. Lily froze. She had promised the millionaire she'd pay it forward someday, but she hadn't thought someday would come so soon. She hurried over. Here, Mrs. Harris. I'll help you. Mrs. Harris smiled weakly. Oh, dear, thank you. I thought I'd be standing here all day. Lily picked up each item and carefully placed them into her own backpack. Come on, I'll walk you home. As they reached the apartment building, the millionaire stepped out of his car and spotted them. He watched quietly as Lily carried the groceries all the way to Mrs. Harris's door before returning downstairs. When Lily reached him, he knelt so they were eye to eye. You didn't wait until you were grown. Lily looked puzzled. What do you mean? You kept your promise today, he said with a proud smile. Helping someone doesn't have an age limit. Her cheeks flushed with pride. I learned from you. The millionaire glanced up at the building, hearing voices from open windows and smelling the soup someone had just started cooking. The kindness was spreading, little by little. And for the first time in years, he realized he wasn't just giving hope, he was receiving it too. Later that evening, after the hallway had quieted and most of the neighbors had gone inside, the millionaire knocked on Lily's door. She opened it with a smile. Hi. Do you need something? Just a moment of your time, he said gently. And maybe a cup of tea if you've got any. Lily invited him in. Tommy was already asleep on the couch, his little toy truck resting in his hand. The millionaire sat at the small kitchen table, his large frame making the chair look tiny. He stared at the steam rising from the chipped mug of tea Lily poured, his expression turning distant. When I told you I was once the kid asking for milk, he began slowly, there's more to it than I said. Lily sat across from him, listening intently. My mom, she tried her best. But one winter, she got sick. Too sick to work. We had nothing. I walked into that store because I had no choice. The man who helped me, his name was Mr. Palmer, didn't just give me bread and jam. He started checking in on us, making sure we had what we needed. And when my mom passed away, he paused, taking a deep breath. He didn't let me end up on the street. Lily's eyes filled with sympathy. So, He was your someday promise? He nodded. Yes. I told him I'd pay it forward. It took me years to be able to do it. And when you looked at me in that store and said you'd pay me back someday, I saw myself standing there all over again. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she said softly, I guess, we're part of the same promise now. The millionaire smiled, and for the first time in decades, it reached his eyes. Years passed. The small apartment building had changed, brighter paint, repaired steps, a playground with new swings instead of rusted chains. The millionaire still visited often, though his hair had turned more silver than black. Lily had grown into a young woman, studying nursing at the local college. She still lived in the building with Tommy, who was now a tall, cheerful teenager. One rainy evening, the millionaire sat in the courtyard, watching raindrops ripple in puddles, when Lily approached carrying a thermos of hot tea. I've been thinking about something, she said, sitting beside him. About the promise. He smiled faintly. The one you made with a carton of milk in your hands? She laughed softly. Yes. You kept showing up for us. And now, it's my turn. From her bag, she pulled out a small white envelope and placed it in his hand. Inside was a folded piece of paper, a bank transfer receipt. I've been saving from my scholarship stipend and part-time job. This is enough to cover food and supplies for the whole building for a month. I want to do it, in your name. The millionaire looked at her, the rain blurring the edges of his vision. Lily, you don't have to, I know I don't, she interrupted softly. But I want to. You once told me helping someone isn't just about the moment, it's about staying until they can stand on their own. I can stand now. And I'm not going anywhere. For a long moment, he said nothing, then he reached over, squeezing her hand. And in the quiet rain, the promise that had started with bread and milk had come full circle, stretching across generations like an unbreakable chain of kindness. Months later, the story of Lily and the millionaire quietly began to ripple beyond their neighborhood. It started when a local teacher, who knew Lily from her volunteer work at the clinic, mentioned her in a small community newsletter. The article told of a young woman who once asked for milk and repaid the kindness by feeding an entire building. A week later, a local radio host picked up the story. 2 days after that, a city journalist called, asking for an interview. At first, Lily hesitated. I don't want people to think I'm doing this for attention, she told the millionaire. He smiled knowingly. Sometimes telling the story isn't about you. It's about showing others what's possible. Reluctantly, she agreed. The article went viral. People from other cities began sending donations to the apartment building. A charity offered to fund scholarships for children there. Volunteers arrived to repaint the stairwells and plant flowers outside. One afternoon, as they watched the volunteers work, the millionaire leaned toward Lily. Do you see what's happening? She nodded. The promise is spreading. He chuckled. It's not just ours anymore. It belongs to everyone who believes in it. In that moment, Lily realized something. The milk she'd once begged for hadn't just fed her brother. It had fed a chain reaction that would keep going long after she and the millionaire were gone. The first day of spring brought clear skies and the scent of blooming flowers to the neighborhood. The courtyard was buzzing with children playing, neighbors chatting, and the sound of hammers as a volunteer crew fixed the old fence. The millionaire sat at his usual spot on the bench, watching it all with quiet satisfaction. Lily approached, carrying 2 cups of tea. She handed him one, smiling. You've built something here that will last forever. He took the cup, but instead of answering right away, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, leather-bound folder. What's this? She asked. Open it, he said. Inside was a stack of official papers. Her eyes widened as she read the first page, the title deed to the apartment building. I bought it, he explained. And now, I'm giving it to you. Lily's jaw dropped. What? No. I can't take this. Yes, you can, he replied firmly. You're the reason this place is what it is. You've lived the promise, not just kept it. I want you to protect it, make sure it always stays a home for people who need one. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't even know what to say. Say you'll keep going, he said softly. She nodded, clutching the folder to her chest. I will. Always. As the sun dipped behind the rooftops, the millionaire looked out over the courtyard, children laughing, neighbors sharing food, flowers swaying in the breeze, and knew his work was done. The promise, once passed to him with bread and jam, had now been passed to Lily with bricks and walls. And it would live on, long after both of them were gone.